Have you ever felt like your kindness was being taken for granted, like your genuine desire to help someone left you emotionally drained, or worse, made you question your own generosity? If you've ever been in a situation where helping others seemed to come at the cost of your own well-being, you're not alone. It's a common struggle, especially for those of us who pride ourselves on being empathetic and caring. Today, let me introduce you to Dr. Mark Bennett, a remarkable 75-year-old physician from Austin, Texas, whose wisdom and life experiences offer invaluable lessons on this very topic. With over 5 decades of serving his community, Dr. Bennett has seen the best and worst in people, the uplifting acts of gratitude, the heartwarming moments of connection, and yes, the confusing, even heartbreaking times when his kindness was met with manipulation or ingratitude. Bennett is a man who has devoted his life to serving his community, and through the highs and lows of his career, he's witnessed the entire spectrum of human behavior. Moments of selflessness and gratitude, but also instances of manipulation, entitlement, and negativity. Dr. Bennett often reflects on the times he generously extended his hand to others, only to later recognize that his well-meaning actions weren't always met with gratitude, or worse, they left him feeling drained and questioning his decision to help. Over the years, he's come to understand a crucial truth. While helping others is a noble pursuit, it's essential to be discerning about where you direct your energy. There are certain types of individuals who, rather than appreciating your efforts, may sap your energy, peace of mind, and even your joy. In today's discussion, Dr. Bennett will share a deeply personal breakdown of 6 specific types of individuals you should think twice about helping. These insights aren't meant to discourage you from being kind. They're meant to empower you to protect your well-being while still maintaining your compassion. And trust me, when we get to the 6th type, it's going to leave you speechless. It's a perspective that could transform the way you approach your relationships and interactions with others. Now, imagine this scenario. You're at a local community event. The atmosphere is warm and inviting, filled with the buzz of people, chatting, laughing, and sharing stories. Suddenly, someone approaches you with a heartfelt tale of struggle. Their words tug at your heartstrings, and you feel an immediate pull to help. You might offer money, time, advice, or even a shoulder to lean on. But what if I told you that some of these encounters, despite your best intentions, can lead to feelings of emotional exhaustion or even manipulation? It's a tough pill to swallow, isn't it? Many of us are raised to believe that helping others is always the right thing to do, but Dr. Bennett's wisdom reveals that not all acts of kindness are beneficial, to us or to them. Sometimes by helping the wrong people, we inadvertently harm ourselves and even enable negative behaviors in others. It's a fine line to walk, but it's one that Dr. Bennett has navigated with care and insight. Dr. Bennett's experiences and advice will help you navigate these tricky waters, allowing you to protect your peace and energy while remaining the kind-hearted person you've always been. Through his stories and guidance, you'll learn how to identify red flags and make decisions that honor both your well-being and your values. If this resonates with you, if you've ever felt conflicted about whether to help someone or wondered if your generosity was truly appreciated, then this video is for you. By the end, you'll have the tools to approach these situations with clarity and confidence. Before we dive in, here's a little housekeeping. The most valuable tips in today's video are reserved for our subscribers. By hitting the subscribe button and turning on notifications, you'll be the first to know when we release new content. This is wisdom you won't want to miss, especially if you value protecting your energy and living a life of purpose and joy. While you're here, why not take a moment to connect with our growing community? Drop a comment below sharing your city and country. Let us know about a time when you felt conflicted about helping someone or when your generosity left you feeling uplifted or drained. Your personal experiences are invaluable and can inspire and comfort others who may be navigating similar challenges. Together we can create a space where kindness and boundaries coexist harmoniously, a supportive community built on shared wisdom and understanding. So, are you ready to embark on this journey with Dr. Bennett? Are you ready to discover the 6 types of people you should think twice about helping and learn how to safeguard your energy while staying true to your compassionate nature. Let's dive into the first type of person on this list. And trust me, this is just the beginning of an eye-opening discussion that could change the way you approach your relationships forever. Stay tuned, because there's so much more to uncover. Let's get started. Now let's dive into the first surprising type of person you should avoid helping, the chronic complainers. These individuals have a remarkable talent for finding the downside in every situation. No matter the context, they seem to carry a dark cloud of grievances, spreading negativity wherever they go. They thrive on a constant loop of complaints, pulling unsuspecting listeners into their whirlwind of despair. At first, it might seem like they're just venting or looking for advice, but over time, it becomes clear that no matter how much you try to help, their problems never seem to go away. Dr. Bennett often uses this type as an example of how misplaced empathy can backfire. He recalls a time early in his retirement when he befriended a neighbor who seemed to be struggling. This neighbor always had a story of frustration to share, troubles with their family, conflicts at work, dissatisfaction with their finances, and even complaints about the weather. Dr. Bennett initially felt that lending a sympathetic ear was the least he could do. After all, listening to others is an act of kindness, right? But what started as occasional chats quickly escalated into hours-long phone calls, each one filled with a never-ending stream of negativity. At first, Dr. Bennett felt good about his willingness to be there for someone who clearly needed support. However, as weeks turned into months, he began noticing a shift in his own mood and outlook on life. What he thought was a harmless act of kindness began to weigh heavily on him. After every call, he felt emotionally drained, irritable, and, in his own words, like the joy had been sucked out of the day. It was as though his neighbor's problems had become his own, even though he had no power to solve them. It wasn't until Dr. Bennett took a step back that he realized the toll these interactions were taking on him. He began to see that his neighbor wasn't interested in solutions or growth. They simply wanted someone to join them in their cycle of complaining. Instead of feeling appreciated or valued for his time, Dr. Bennett found himself resenting the very person he had tried to help. This resentment, he noted, was a red flag, a clear sign that he needed to reevaluate the situation. One of the most important lessons Dr. Bennett shares is the value of boundaries. While empathy is a beautiful and essential quality, it should never come at the expense of your own well-being. Chronic complainers often rely on others to carry the weight of their unhappiness, but this dependency can quickly turn toxic. By constantly indulging their negativity, you risk being dragged into their world of despair, leaving you depleted and unable to focus on your own needs. So, how do you handle a chronic complainer without sacrificing your peace? Dr. Bennett suggests a two-step approach. First, recognize the patterns. If you notice that someone repeatedly comes to you with the same complaints without taking any steps to improve their situation, it's a sign that they might not be looking for genuine help or advice. Instead, they may simply be seeking validation for their negative outlook. Second, set clear and compassionate boundaries. You don't have to cut ties completely, but you can limit your interactions or gently steer conversations away from their constant grievances. For example, the next time a chronic complainer starts their cycle, you might say something like, "I understand that this is really frustrating for you. Have you considered trying specific solution?" If they brush off the suggestion and return to their complaints, it's okay to shift the focus or end the conversation politely. Remember, kindness doesn't mean sacrificing your mental health. You can care for someone while still protecting your own energy. Dr. Bennett's personal experience serves as a powerful reminder. It's not selfish to prioritize your well-being. In fact, by taking care of yourself, you're better equipped to help others in meaningful and sustainable ways. Chronic complainers may not be aware of the impact their negativity has on others, but it's up to you to decide how much of your time and energy you're willing to invest. Let's take a moment to reflect. Have you ever found yourself in a similar situation? Perhaps you've encountered someone in your life, a friend, colleague, or family member, who seems to thrive on negativity. How did you handle it? Did you feel guilty about setting boundaries, or did you find a way to protect your peace without feeling like you were abandoning them? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your stories could provide valuable insights for others who may be facing similar challenges. As we explore this topic further, it's important to recognize that setting boundaries isn't about being unkind or indifferent. It's about respecting yourself enough to know when to step back. Chronic complainers often struggle with their own internal battles, and while it's natural to want to help, there's a difference between being supportive and becoming a sounding board for endless negativity. By choosing when and how to engage, you're not only protecting your peace, but also encouraging them to take responsibility for their own happiness. Before we move on to the next type of person you should avoid helping, let's pause to consider the bigger picture. Boundaries aren't just about limiting negativity. They're about creating space for positivity and growth. By recognizing when a relationship or interaction is draining you, you free up emotional energy that can be invested in the people and activities that truly bring you joy. Stay tuned, because in the next section, we'll explore another type of individual who might not be worth your time and energy: the perpetual victim. These are people who seem to attract misfortune at every turn, drawing you into their endless tales of woe. Learning how to identify and navigate these relationships is another essential step in safeguarding your emotional well-being. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our content. While you're here, take a moment to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your insights could help others in our community navigate these challenges, and together we can create a supportive space built on shared wisdom and mutual respect. Let's continue this journey of self-discovery and growth one step at a time. Dr. Helen Carter, a renowned psychologist with decades of experience specializing in senior well-being, often emphasizes the profound but sometimes precarious nature of empathy. She reminds us that while empathy is one of humanity's most beautiful and unifying traits, it can also become a double-edged sword. When taken too far or given without boundaries, empathy has the potential to erode our emotional and mental well-being. Her insights resonate deeply, especially when it comes to helping those who seem perpetually caught in cycles of crisis or drama. Dr. Carter frequently shares the story of Margaret, a retired teacher in her 70s, who spent years caring for her friend Linda. Linda was the kind of person who always seemed to attract misfortune. One week it was a financial crisis, the next it was a falling out with her family. Linda's tales of woe were endless, and Margaret, being a compassionate and loyal friend, felt it was her duty to be there for her. She would spend hours on the phone, driving across town to provide support, and even neglecting her own hobbies and social connections to ensure Linda was okay. At first, Margaret found meaning in being Linda's rock. But as the years went by, she began to notice the toll it was taking on her own well-being. The constant exposure to Linda's crises left her feeling emotionally drained, and her stress levels began to manifest physically. Margaret's sleep patterns became irregular. She started experiencing frequent headaches, and her overall health began to decline. Despite all her efforts, she realized that Linda's circumstances never improved. Instead, Linda seemed to remain stuck in the same patterns of drama and dependence. The turning point came during a rare moment of self-reflection. Margaret looked at herself in the mirror one morning and hardly recognized the woman staring back. She felt exhausted, hollow, and as though her identity had been consumed by someone else's chaos. Dr. Carter's words echoed in her mind. Helping others should never come at the cost of your own peace. Margaret realized that she had been prioritizing Linda's well-being over her own for far too long. It was time for a change. With a heavy heart but newfound determination, Margaret decided to set firm boundaries with Linda. She began limiting their conversations, gently steering them away from crisis-focused discussions. Instead of rushing to fix every problem, she encouraged Linda to seek professional help and explore ways to take responsibility for her own life. Margaret also made a conscious effort to reconnect with herself, picking up long-abandoned hobbies, joining a local book club, and spending time with friends who uplifted her. The transformation was remarkable. Within months, Margaret's health began to improve, her stress levels decreased, and she rediscovered a sense of joy and vitality she hadn't felt in years. While her relationship with Linda changed, it also became healthier and more balanced. Margaret learned that true friendship doesn't mean losing yourself in someone else's struggles. It means offering support without sacrificing your own well-being. Now let's pause for a moment and reflect. Have you ever found yourself in a similar situation? Perhaps you felt the weight of someone else's burdens pressing down on you to the point where it began to impact your own health or happiness. How did you handle it? Did you set boundaries, or are you still trying to navigate that balance? Sharing your experiences in the comments below could inspire others who might be facing the same challenges. Sometimes, hearing someone else's story is the encouragement we need to make a change. As we move forward, let's explore the third type of person to be wary of: the energy vampire. These individuals are experts in draining the emotional reserves of those around them, often without even realizing it. They thrive on negativity and drama, turning every interaction into a one-sided venting session that leaves you feeling exhausted. Picture this. You're having a wonderful day. Perhaps you've just finished a relaxing morning walk, enjoyed a cup of coffee, or spent time with loved ones. Then you meet up with a friend who immediately launches into a monologue about their problems, their grievances with work, their latest conflict with a family member, or the endless ways life seems to have wronged them. You listen politely, offering support where you can, but by the end of the conversation you feel like you've run an emotional marathon. You're drained, frustrated, and maybe even questioning whether you did something wrong to feel this way. Dr. Carter describes this phenomenon as the hallmark of an energy vampire. These individuals are not inherently bad people, but they have a way of centering every interaction around their struggles, leaving little room for mutual exchange or joy. Recognizing an energy vampire in your life can be challenging, especially if they're someone you care about deeply. However, learning to set boundaries with them is essential for preserving your emotional energy. Take the story of Harold, one of Dr. Carter's clients. Harold, a retired accountant, had a cousin who fit the description of an energy vampire perfectly. Every visit was a marathon of complaints, and Harold always walked away feeling depleted. For years, he endured these interactions out of a sense of obligation, believing that family meant sticking together no matter what. But as Harold's own energy and happiness began to wane, he realized something had to change. After discussing his situation with Dr. Carter, Harold decided to take a bold but necessary step. He limited his interactions with his cousin. Instead of weekly meetups, he reduced their visits to monthly coffee dates. When they did meet, Harold gently steered the conversations toward more balanced topics, occasionally redirecting the focus when his cousin veered into negativity. This small but significant change allowed Harold to reclaim his energy and invest it in relationships that brought him joy and fulfillment. Now let's take a moment to reflect again. Have you ever had to distance yourself from someone who drained your energy? How did it make you feel, and what steps did you take to protect yourself? Sharing your experiences could be the encouragement someone else needs to take that step for themselves. It's not always easy to prioritize your well-being, especially when it involves difficult conversations or changes to long-standing relationships, but the rewards are worth it. Dr. Carter reminds us that boundaries are an act of self-care, not selfishness. By protecting your energy, you're not only honoring your own needs, but also setting a healthy example for others. Whether it's limiting time with an energy vampire, encouraging them to take responsibility for their own happiness, or simply stepping back when needed, these actions are essential for creating a life of balance and joy. Stay tuned, because in the next section, we'll delve into another type of person you should think twice about helping: the manipulator. These individuals are skilled at disguising their true intentions, often using charm and flattery to pull you into their web. Recognizing and navigating these relationships is crucial for safeguarding your peace. As we continue, the fourth type of person to avoid is the manipulator. These individuals often disguise their intentions behind a veil of charm and flattery. They may ask for help, but their true goal is to control or exploit your kindness. Think of someone who always seems to have a crisis that requires your immediate attention, yet never offers support in return. Dr. Carter warns that manipulators can be particularly dangerous because they can make you feel guilty for not helping. A story comes to mind about a woman named Doris, who was always there for her neighbor, Tom, who would call her at all hours with his emergencies. It wasn't until Doris realized that Tom never reciprocated her kindness that she decided to take a step back. By doing so, she found the freedom to invest her time in relationships that were mutually supportive. Can you relate to Doris's experience? Have you ever felt manipulated into helping someone? Share your thoughts below. Your experiences could resonate with others who might be struggling with similar situations. Now let's move on to the fifth type of person you should be cautious of, the critic. These are the individuals who seem to thrive on pointing out your flaws and shortcomings. They may disguise their comments as constructive criticism, but in reality, they only serve to undermine your confidence and joy. Dr. Carter emphasizes that surrounding yourself with supportive people is vital for your mental health. A lovely story comes to mind about a retired teacher named Evelyn, who had a friend who constantly criticized her hobbies. After years of feeling belittled, Evelyn decided to distance herself from that friendship. She began to explore her passions without fear of judgment, and in doing so, she found a new community that celebrated her creativity. Have you ever had a critic in your life? How did you handle it? I encourage you to share your stories in the comments. Your insights could empower someone else to break free from negativity. Finally, we arrive at the sixth type of person you should never help, the one who refuses to help themselves. These individuals often expect you to solve their problems for them, without any effort on their part. They may come to you with the same issues repeatedly, seeking your assistance, but never taking steps to change their situation. Dr. Carter often reminds her clients that while it's natural to want to help, it's crucial to recognize when your support is enabling someone's stagnation. A poignant example is a man named Frank, who had a friend that constantly complained about his job, but never took any action to improve his situation. After years of listening to the same complaints, Frank realized that he was wasting his energy. He gently encouraged his friend to seek new opportunities, but when nothing changed, he decided to step back. This decision allowed Frank to focus on his own growth and happiness. As we wrap up this segment, I want you to think about your own experiences. Have you ever felt like you were helping someone who wasn't willing to help themselves? How did that impact you? Your comments could provide valuable insights for others. Navigating similar waters. Remember, protecting your energy is not just about saying no to others, it's about saying yes to yourself. By recognizing these types of people and setting healthy boundaries, you can create a life filled with joy, peace, and meaningful connections. As we continue our exploration of the types of people you should think twice about helping, we come to the fourth, the manipulator. These individuals are often the most cunning, disguising their true intentions behind a veil of charm, flattery, or exaggerated vulnerability. On the surface, they appear to be genuine, kind, or in desperate need of help, but beneath the surface lies a calculated goal to control or exploit your kindness for their own benefit. Manipulators are skilled at creating a sense of urgency around their needs. They might present you with a crisis that demands immediate attention, pulling you into their web before you've had a chance to think critically about the situation. These crises often seem endless, and no matter how much you give, whether it's your time, resources, or emotional energy, it's never enough. What's worse, manipulators rarely reciprocate the kindness they receive. Instead, they leave you feeling used, drained, and perhaps even questioning your own judgment. Dr. Helen Carter, with her extensive background in psychology and human behavior, warns that manipulators can be particularly dangerous because of their ability to weaponize guilt. They know how to make you feel as though you're in the wrong for not helping them, even when their requests are unreasonable or when you've already done more than your fair share. Consider the story of Doris, a retired librarian who lived next door to a man named Tom. At first, Tom seemed like the ideal neighbor, friendly, charming, and always quick with a compliment. But over time, Doris began to notice a pattern. Tom frequently called her late at night with so-called emergencies, a flat tire, a broken appliance, or an urgent errand he couldn't handle alone. Each time, Doris dropped everything to help, believing it was the neighborly thing to do. For a while, Doris felt good about being there for Tom. She prided herself on her generosity and her ability to step in when others needed her. But as the months went by, she began to realize that Tom's emergencies were not only constant, but also suspiciously convenient. He never seemed to reciprocate her kindness or show gratitude beyond surface-level thanks. Instead, he continued to ask for more, pushing her limits and leaving her feeling used. One evening, after yet another late-night call, Doris had a moment of clarity. She realized that helping Tom wasn't making her feel fulfilled. It was making her feel resentful and exhausted. She decided to set firm boundaries, explaining to Tom that she could no longer be his go-to solution for every problem. At first, Tom reacted with frustration, accusing her of being selfish. But Doris stood her ground, and by doing so she found the freedom to invest her time and energy into relationships that were mutually supportive. Dr. Carter highlights Doris's story as a powerful example of reclaiming one's energy. Manipulators often rely on their ability to guilt or pressure others into compliance, but by recognizing their tactics and setting boundaries, you can break free from their hold. It's not easy to say no, especially to someone who seems to be in need, but it's a necessary step for your own well-being. Now, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever encountered someone like Tom, a person who always seemed to have a crisis that demanded your immediate attention, yet never gave back in return? How did it make you feel and how did you handle it? Sharing your experiences in the comments below could resonate with others who might be struggling with similar situations. Your story might even inspire someone to take the first step toward setting their own boundaries. As we move on, let's examine the fifth type of person to be cautious of, the critic. These individuals have a knack for undermining your confidence under the guise of offering constructive criticism. On the surface, their comments might seem helpful or well-intentioned, but over time, you realize that their words only serve to highlight your flaws and diminish your joy. Dr. Carter emphasizes that surrounding yourself with supportive people is essential for your mental and emotional health, especially as you navigate life's inevitable challenges. A poignant example is the story of Evelyn, a retired teacher, who spent years enduring subtle but persistent criticism from her friend Susan. Susan always had something to say about Evelyn's choices, whether it was her hobbies, her wardrobe, or even her cooking. "I'm just being honest," Susan would say, dismissing Evelyn's hurt feelings as an overreaction. For years, Evelyn brushed off Susan's comments, convincing herself that it was better to keep the peace than to confront the issue. But over time, the constant criticism began to take a toll on her self-esteem. Evelyn found herself second-guessing her decisions, avoiding activities she once loved, and withdrawing from other friendships out of fear of judgment. The turning point came during a conversation with a new friend at her local art class. When Evelyn hesitated to share her latest painting, citing fear of criticism, her friend responded with a warm smile. "Art isn't about being perfect, it's about expressing yourself." In that moment, Evelyn realized how much she had allowed Susan's negativity to influence her life. She decided to distance herself from Susan and surround herself with people who celebrated her passions instead of tearing them down. The result was transformative. Evelyn rediscovered her love for painting, joined a supportive creative community, and began to rebuild her confidence. Her story serves as a reminder that constructive feedback is valuable, but toxic criticism has no place. In a healthy relationship, have you ever had a critic in your life who made you feel small or inadequate? How did you navigate that dynamic? And what steps did you take to reclaim your confidence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights could empower someone else to break free from negativity and find their own voice. Finally, we arrive at the sixth type of person you should never help: those who refuse to help themselves. These individuals often seek your assistance for the same problems over and over again, showing little to no interest in taking action to improve their circumstances. They rely on others to solve their problems while remaining firmly stuck in a cycle of inaction. Dr. Carter often shares the story of Frank, a retired engineer, who had a friend named Jerry. Jerry frequently complained about his job, his finances, and his relationships, yet he never took steps to address these issues. Frank, being a compassionate listener, spent countless hours offering advice, encouragement, and even tangible resources. But no matter what Frank did, Jerry's complaints remained the same. One day, Frank realized that his efforts weren't helping Jerry. They were enabling him. By always stepping in to solve Jerry's problems, Frank was unintentionally allowing him to remain stagnant. Frank decided to step back, encouraging Jerry to take responsibility for his own choices. While it was difficult at first, the decision ultimately freed Frank to focus on his own growth and happiness. As we wrap up, think about your own experiences. Have you ever felt like you were helping someone who wasn't willing to help themselves? How did it impact you, and what did you learn from the situation? Your comments could provide valuable insights for others navigating similar challenges. Remember, protecting your energy is not just about saying no to others, it's about saying yes to yourself. By recognizing these types of people and setting healthy boundaries, you can create a life filled with joy, peace, and meaningful connections. Now let's explore actionable tips for recognizing toxic behaviors and protecting yourself from their harmful effects. It all begins with awareness. Firstly, learn to spot the signs of toxicity. Toxic individuals often display recurring patterns, such as constant complaining, manipulative tendencies, or relentless criticism that doesn't serve a constructive purpose. Pay close attention to how you feel after interacting with someone. Do you walk away from conversations feeling exhausted, anxious, or undervalued? These are often the first indicators that you're dealing with toxic behavior. For example, imagine a coworker who always dismisses your ideas in meetings, or a friend who uses guilt to compel you into doing things you're uncomfortable with. These subtle patterns can quietly take a toll on your emotional well-being. In the second place, it's crucial to establish clear and firm boundaries. Toxic behaviors thrive when there's a lack of clarity about what is and isn't acceptable. Setting boundaries isn't about being confrontational. It's about protecting your peace. For instance, if someone frequently calls you late at night to unload their problems, let them know that you're unavailable during those hours, but would be happy to talk at a mutually convenient time. Communicating your limits calmly but assertively can help you regain control over your interactions. Next, focus on limiting your exposure to individuals who consistently drain your energy. You don't always have to cut ties completely, but reducing the time you spend with toxic people can have a profound impact on your mental health. Take the story of Rachel, for example. Rachel had a friend who constantly criticized her career choices, leaving her feeling inadequate after every conversation. Instead of ending the friendship abruptly, Rachel chose to meet less frequently and shifted their conversations to lighter, less personal topics. This small change allowed Rachel to reclaim her confidence while still maintaining a cordial relationship. Lastly, prioritize self-care and surround yourself with positive influences. It's much easier to recognize and resist toxic behaviors when you're emotionally grounded and supported by people who uplift you. When you're confident in your own worth, it becomes much harder for toxic individuals to manipulate or undermine you. Consider this. If you've just spent time with a friend who celebrates your successes and listens with genuine interest, the contrast between that interaction and one with a toxic individual becomes stark. Recognizing that difference helps you make better decisions about where to invest your time and energy. Remember, protecting yourself from toxic behaviors isn't about shutting people out. It's about creating a balanced life that prioritizes your peace and well-being. By staying aware, setting boundaries, limiting exposure, and prioritizing positivity, you can navigate relationships with confidence and clarity. Recognizing toxic behaviors and learning to set boundaries is one of the most empowering steps you can take toward protecting your energy and living a more fulfilling life. Whether it's identifying patterns of manipulation, limiting exposure to negativity, or simply learning to say no, every small action you take to safeguard your well-being contributes to a healthier, happier you. Remember, Prioritizing yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. By taking these steps, you create room for positive relationships and experiences that uplift and inspire you. It's not about cutting everyone off or avoiding kindness. It's about being intentional with your time and energy, choosing connections that nurture your growth and well-being. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Have you encountered toxic behaviors in your life? How did you handle them and what lessons did you learn? Share your insights and experiences in the comments below. They could provide invaluable support to someone navigating similar challenges. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on more tips and insights like these. Let's continue this journey of growth and self-care together, building a supportive community where we can share wisdom and uplift one another. Thank you for watching, and remember, your peace is priceless. Until next time, take care of yourself and cherish the relationships that truly matter. See you in the next video.